The APPS Alchemy Podcast is a Mind Garden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions. This is the APPS Alchemy Podcast with Damon, Sue, and Amy Lynn. They'll take a deep dive into the world of the paranormal, cryptids, the occult, and more. These seasoned paranormal investigators have seen and heard it all. It's time to share with you.
Hello, everyone. We are APPS Alchemy. Here today we have Jim Bankich. He is our head of health to safety and is our team medic. I am Amy Lynn Newstead. Got married. Fun facts. To my right is Damon Jacobs. He is our head founder.
He is the man in charge.
I run the damn team.
And then right across from me is Susan Goff and Jen Coriel. I didn't want to get that mixed up, so I'm sorry. Susie is the co-manager of this team and has been on the team for longer than I have. And Jen has been here for 3 years. 3 years and is our secretary. And on the other screen is Christina Bloom, who is officially a full member of this team, and we love her and adore her so much.
And we use her and abuse her when we can.
We
Whenever
do.
possible, but fortunately, I'm not right in the neighborhood, so they don't get to use me in abuse.
It's long distance abuse. She can hide.
It's long distance.
She runs away, but she still can't find that far.
I keep coming back. It's like I'm on this bungee cord. I just keep coming back.
Yes. We haven't scared her away yet.
Well, we try.
She tried to run away, but she said she keeps coming back. We do that to people. Right, Jim?
Yes, you do.
He tried to leave.
It didn't work.
We're like the Hotel California. You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave.
Exactly. I apologize. I don't have a lot of voice today. I did a lot of talking yesterday, so... Yeah, I was at the Spirits in the Spring Paracon yesterday, and it was way cool. And if you have never been to any type of a Paracon or a fair or anything like that in an abandoned building,
Ooh.
I highly recommend it. It was way cool.
That sounds awesome.
Well, you're going to see it next month.
That is true.
Yes.
I literally just ordered clothes from you and Roman, so.
Nice. She's running away.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
I'll fill you in later.
I got confuzzled.
But today's topic for this lovely livecast is the correlation between paranormal activity and neurodivergency. Something that I'm very familiar with since I'm neurodivergent myself.
Well, you just keep telling yourself that. We'll use that as an excuse.
I'm diagnosed with ADHD.
Yes, you are.
Suspected with some little bit of autism.
Well, first, why don't we say what neurodivergent means for those people that might not know?
So neurodivergency is, so you have neurotypical and then you have neurodivergent. Neurotypical is how the brain is atypical, meaning it's the way that we have basis of what the brain is supposed to look like, how it's supposed to function, and how it's supposed to correlate with the body. Operate's a great word. Neurodivergent means that brain works differently, so, like how you find with people with ADHD or with autism, or especially people with odd ADHD, which is people with autism and ADHD. It's a term that people who have both of those, they made a term for themselves and it became AUDHD. There's other things as well, people who have developmental conditions and neurological conditions.
So what do you think the connection is between neurodivergent and paranormal?
So with the paranormal, you have a lot of, as we talked about, you have to be able to look at the world differently and understand it. People with neurodivergency, especially with autism and ADHD, they already see the world in a different light than people with an atypical function. Mm-hmm. They have an abnormal function of where their neurons connect and how they operate and how they're stimulated. And neurons are the parts of your brain that are, it's kind of like the electricity of the brain, and how, like, if you have an interest of a topic, and for most people, that topic lights up similar topics in the brain or thoughts. Someone with neurodivergency, that can light up something about dinosaurs, or for me, a lot of times it's to movie references or to whatever book I'm reading. It just always links back to those special interests that one might have. Another thing is, like, a lot of times if you get interest into a fact that we forget to breathe, or we have speech impediment issues, but we're really quite smart, but we see the world in a different light, and we see things in a different way, and we might think more outside of the box than other people, or we think inside the box when we need to think inside the box, kind of thing. And it's more of, because we can see the way things are different, there shows more evidence of kids with autism and people on the spectrum, especially children, that they are more likely to have paranormal experiences as a child than someone without those divergencies.
Is it due to the fact that they're more open?
Yeah. So they're more open to whatever is in front of them or in their surrounding areas.
That's outside the scope of normal.
Yeah,
viewing.
Quote unquote. Yeah, definitely. And there are some articles that have suspected it might even be genetics.
So Sarah, who can't make it tonight, wanted to just chime in with neurodivergent brains are wired differently. Therefore, we are more prone to sensory issues and more sensitive.
Yes.
Definitely much more sensitive to energy.
Yep.
And energy shifts, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, if you ever know someone who's neurodivergent, you know that they get overstimulated super easily and they get overwhelmed. There's reasons that, like, the slightest little thing can trigger them, because you can hear electricity, you hear the air, you can see it, and, like, you can feel the clothes on your skin. And especially, like, when they're in a large room, you know it's full of porn.
That explains a lot.
Wow.
That took that to a different level. That's a different show, Amy Lynn.
Yeah, different show.
Some hot mic stuff going on here. Wow.
Paranormal.
Talk about neurodivergent.
Right?
Porno.
I guess it's good. We only have, we just lost a viewer. Thanks a lot, Amy Lynn.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I meant paranormal.
It's all good. We know where her head is right now. So if we could bring you back,
Reel it in, Amy.
But, like, it's something I have experienced, being the person has the differently wired brain, which there could be many reasons for that one. But, like, if I get into a room, especially in that last investigation we had, there's some points in time where I just feel so overwhelmed, I shut down, and I have to shut everything off, else I'm going to have a panic attack, kind of thing.
Is it due to the overstimulation of all your senses at once? Or one in particular?
It can... So it all depends on the situation. I think at some points in time, it's mostly a combination, but there's definitely times when it's just one or two things that are just happening at the same time at intense volume or intense moments that it's just hard to comprehend and catalog, is the word I think I'm going for. And the best way to think of, you have like 3 vials in your system. One's for physical contact, one's for social contact, and the other is your mental status and emotions. And if one gets filled, it starts overflowing to the other, and it flows into the other, and all of them, it just overflows. And you can't hold it anymore.
And now you can't separate because they're all together.
Jumbled together.
Especially like in a professional setting, when I have to be professional, I have to keep a certain face on, which is a mask. It gets even harder to regulate.
Filter.
Masking is like taking my fidgets and all the things that I want to do and suppressing them so I can seem atypical. I'm filtering my words, I'm filtering my movements, I'm filtering my interactions, my eye contact, when I make eye contact, it's not just like, oh, we're making eye contact conversation. I'm thinking about how long, when do I look away, how long do I do this? It's because it's uncomfortable for most times. But
so Sarah wanted to add in, the overstimulation is the reason we see, hear, and sense things that non-neurodivergent brains can't.
For me, it's smell. I find smell very overwhelming sometimes. And I know a lot of times if I'm in a paranormal situation, the smell will be one of my first signs that something's going on. It happened at one of the recent investigations we did where it was just so, I wanted to run out of the building. It was just so intense.
And I feel like people with neurodivergency, they have a better way to have one, the clair audio, clairvoyance, claircognizance. But it's hard to get
Claire
to that.
Huxtable.
Cut his mic.
Look, if Todd were on, he would already been saying it by now.
That's
We'll
true.
just put it right there. Todd would have already said it.
So you're channeling Todd. Good.
I am channeling Todd. I don't have the magnificent beard like Todd has, but I'm working on it.
We got the beer man right here.
Slowly.
It's all good.
Yes. Jim is definitely putting Todd at a rivalry with the beard.
So what you're saying is it takes
Hey,
two
Jim.
of us to equal one of Todd.
Yes.
Yes.
Gotcha.
What was I saying?
You were just
the
describing exactly why you're neurodivergent.
And how neurodivergent people will have more abilities with the different clairs, whether it's clairaudient, clairsentient.
But it takes because of the simulation, because like the way we think, we don't just have autism and ADHD. A lot of times that comes with depression, it comes with anxiety, it comes with dysmorphia. It comes with a bunch of other stuff because we live in a neurotypical world.
So for those that are unfamiliar with the word, what is dysmorphia?
Dysmorphia is you can't see your body the way it is or think of your body the way it is. You have difficulties looking at yourself in a positive light. Even though I'm not fat, I still can't stop thinking that I am due to past experiences. And like what you say to children absolutely matter, because that'll stick with them for the rest of their lives, especially people with neurodivergencies, because that stuff sticks and will always stick.
Does that go with the focus and the
The hyperfixation, mixing two words there.
I'm actually wondering if, like, we're in the paranormal situation, and if we are interacting with entities and spirits, if they can tell that someone is neurodivergent and therefore go to them.
Absolutely.
Because they know they'll be heard or seen or something.
You'll be more open to
Sarah gave an example. She said that anorexia is a form of dysmorphia.
Yes.
Yeah. I was going to say that too. Yeah. Anorexia is definitely a form where no matter how thin you are, you still look in the mirror and see everything.
I do want to correct a little bit. Anorexia is not a form of dysmorphia. Dysmorphia is a large symptom of anorexia.
Yeah, I mean, they can go hand in hand. It's
They
like,
do go hand in
squares
hand.
a rectangle, rectangles on a square kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
because anorexia is one of the, I don't want to say mutilations. It's one of the ways you treat the body and how the body end up, it's the body's mass and like you're malnourished for an extended long period of time, because you can have dysmorphia and have binge and purge. You can have dysmorphia. Eating disorders and dysmorphia go hand in hand a lot of the times.
Yeah.
But you can also have dysmorphia and not have an eating disorder.
but yeah, going back to what Jen said, yes, I mean, 100% they'll go to somebody who's more open, and neurodivergency creates that openness.
Like-minded.
Because you're not, the programming to not believe isn't there, so to speak.
Not only that, your sensitivities are completely different. Yeah. Which is why you can smell things before anybody else can smell things, because that's your sensitivity. Somebody will hear things that nobody else can hear. And, did you hear that? No. I'm telling you, there's voices over there. I don't hear the voices.
Yeah. And another thing is, like, people with, like, at least for me, like, I hear electricity, so I always have that ringing going on in my head. So if I hear something beyond the ringing, I know I heard something. And that's why, like, there's someone in my name. And because, like, our brains will automatically try to create something. Mm-hmm. And my name is one of those things because I'm just hyper aware of it due to my background.
Well, you have an unusual name.
I do have an unusual name. And usually I heard as a child it was Maria May Lynn. And I didn't know if my dad was trying to call me or my mother. But that was another story. But I find it interesting how something so complex in the mind makes something more easier to do. but it also has challenges because we live in a neurotypical world. We're told we shouldn't have these things. It's wrong to be this way when it's absolutely not. I just want to point that out. Having autism and having ADHD or having both is absolutely perfectly, I'm not going to say normal because it's absolutely perfect not to be normal. And it's, in my opinion, better to be normal. Better not to be normal. Better to be abnormal.
There you go.
I find it interesting that the general belief is that we live in a neurotypical world when I come in contact with a lot of people, literally hundreds of people in a day sometimes. And I would say that more often than not, I run into people who are neurotypical or neuro-non-typical. See, now I'm doing the same thing Amy is doing. But more of the people that I meet are neurodivergent. Now, maybe that's because I work in the paranormal field full time, but also just out there in general public. Have you seen the way some people drive? That is not typical brain behavior.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
I'm a teacher. I see
we call those Torogs
every day.
Yes.
Atypical, I think, is probably much more normal than typical. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't really think that neurotypical is the norm. I think it's something that, I don't know, somebody made up somewhere, but it certainly is not the norm.
I say that it's, we live in an atypical life, like a neurotypical life, because that's what the world is catered to. They don't cater to the people, which is the majority of people who are neurodivergent.
Right.
It's like the world's catered to right-handed people, even though there's a good 10%, even though that looks small in percentage, that's a huge amount of people who are left-handed.
Right.
Well, like my son, when he started school, he was ambidextrous, and the teachers were having a fit because he wasn't picking a dominant hand. And I'm like, what difference does it make? I'm like, if he can write, he can spell, he can...
I'm left-handed.
I don't care if he switches back and forth, but they actually decided he was left-handed and put a oven mitt on his right hand so that he wouldn't use it while he was trying to write. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So, yeah. Or back in the day, if you didn't write with your right hand, you were evil.
Oh, yes. That happened.
Oh, yeah. Left-handed people were witches.
Yes. Yes, I know. Thank you.
Okay, so Sarah pointed out again, add another one here. She said some believe neurodivergent brains may be connected to astro traveling and dream walking.
Oh, interesting.
I really like that train of thought. I do.
Me too. Because
Well, that describes one of our former founding members to a T.
It does, yeah.
That's Matt to a T.
Yeah, dot the I's, cross the T's. That's, well, do a loop on the A and then cross the two T's. But
Yeah.
Okay.
Exclamation point with a little heart underneath.
Note to self before the next podcast.
Make sure Emily takes her meds.
No,
Well, there's that, too.
You're restricted from coffee. You're restricted from sugar.
I didn't have coffee.
Okay, maybe you
You
need
had
coffee.
chocolate.
That's not coffee.
There's caffeine in
Oh,
chocolate.
good Lord.
Yes, but it's not coffee.
All right. But yeah, Sarah says yes, Matt to a T. Matt, one of our former members, he very much could astro travel and dream walk without batting an eye.
When I went to Possum, I met some people like that, and they're absolutely neurotypical. Not neurodivergent. Gosh, words.
Wow,
so
we're having
hard.
a hard time with words today.
And honestly, this is one of the reasons
Mercury's in
why
retrograde.
I like the paranormal world and the paranormal community, because they're embraced.
Yep.
They're not looked at as being different. They're not looked at as being abnormal. They're looked at as being one of the fam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's an open community.
Right. I agree with you completely. I'm on the board for the Paracon that's coming up in Plattsburgh this year. And boy, I'm telling you, like everybody in the paranormal field, we're all right in it. We're creative.
Yep.
We're intelligent. We can really hyper focus, even though the thought about ADHD is that you don't focus. We can hyper focus.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, when there's something really interesting. And I just love that combination of intelligence, creativity, and focus.
I was going to say, it's because they see the world differently to begin with.
And another thing I like to point out is, if you ever look in the DSM-5 and the history of how the symptoms came about, they looked at young boys for the symptoms. So the diagnostics for girls and young adult women and even adult women, it's so different in how they mask, how they present, how they do things. And
the chemistry of the body alone is different.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why we have such an issue right now with there's a boom in people being diagnosed with ADHD and autism. That's because we're just finding out what these other symptoms are for the different people of different brain activities.
But my issue is they're still giving a blanket result. When you go to the doctors and you get diagnosed, it's still a blanket. Everybody gets diagnosed the same way. Everyone gets given the same medication. And, there are ways of dealing with it without medication.
Oh, absolutely.
And I wish that was pushed more than it is right now.
And I agree, sometimes people
I'm not necessarily saying herbal remedies, but there are other ways of dealing with it that is not even being discussed, especially in schools.
Before we kind of segue into our next topic, I think this actually might be a good time to kind of mention something that is kind of near and dear and kind of close to all of our hearts at this point. And that's just, we want to remind people that, especially for those who are neurodivergent and those who are not, who also have some sort of mental health condition or suspect you might or something like that. We want to remind everybody that, you're more than welcome to you can talk to anybody anytime. You can email us if you want to talk to us about stuff, info@appsparanormal.org. But we want to remind people that there is people that are willing to talk to you, and that would be at the Suicide Prevention Hotline. The number is 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-273-8255. You can also dial 988 now. They have a 3-digit number to dial to do that.
And I feel like some people take things too literally about that. Something I learned recently, you don't have to have suicidal thoughts to call them. You can call them at any point in time when you're feeling down, and they will help you figure out what the next steps to do is. Just because their name is Suicide Prevention Hotline doesn't mean that you have to be on the brink of it.
And again, and you can bring it to our group chat. You can bring it to the Sandy and Toddcast group chat. Nobody is going to judge you. Everybody's here to help. For sure.
100%.
100%. You are loved, you are cared about, and even if you think that there isn't someone, there is. And they might not be there now, but they will be there soon.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So I just wanted to get that in there because this is the neurodivergent topic is a sensitive topic to begin with, and I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that there are places you can go and talk to.
For help.
Thanks for listening to part 1 of our latest APPS Alchemy Livecast about neurodivergent minds and the ties to paranormal research and activity. Join us next week for part 2. Check out the show notes for ways that you can listen and interact with us. Bye now.
You can find the APPS Alchemy Podcast on any of the platforms that you normally find your podcasts, including YouTube. Be sure to like APPS Alchemy on Facebook to keep up on the latest goings-on, including each week's episode. Check out our website at appsparanormal.org, and you can email us right from there. And find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok under APPS Paranormal. You can also join our Facebook group, APPS Alchemists, for more fun. APPS Alchemists is a safe space to share your thoughts, feelings, ideas, and random inappropriate memes without judgment. And finally, if you're thinking about starting your own podcast and just aren't sure where to start, Mind Garden Media can help with that. Sandy and Todd from Mind Garden Media can guide you every step of the way in your podcasting journey. Editing, producing, and consulting is what they do. Like Mind Garden Media on Facebook or email them at themindgardenmedia@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening to the APPS Alchemy Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and review us. And check out our next episode coming soon.